Hey, it's Brett with your market recap here, and wanted to give the markets a bit of time to settle down a bit. It's been an interesting couple of weeks, hasn't it? With the FTX unwinding, the Alameda, House of Cards, and now some additional exposure into these other projects that they were trying to kind of prop up, like Voyager. Now we're hearing reports of some of these other projects possibly going under, like Genesis. So, look, we have to see how these things play out. There may be another shoe to drop. And of course, we won't know until it happens. I do think Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, was doing some research on that. Do think they're going to be fine. But Grayscale is the one to watch. So maybe some rumblings over there. And certainly if there was a liquidation event, that would dump quite a lot of Bitcoin on the markets. So let's dive into it. And as we say, show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. And so you should be able to see my chart here. I'll go ahead and turn off the camera. We're going to continue to look at we're going to be looking at the monthly chart of Bitcoin here. Okay, so with that, so you can see full screen here, this is the monthly chart of Bitcoin. We again have this very large bearish engulfing candle here. So we have 3 days left in the month here, depending on when you're going to be seeing this. So this would indicate that we head lower. And so as we've seen in the past, these monthly engulfing candles very good at predicting future price action. Back here, bullish engulfing went higher, bullish engulfing higher, and again, higher. So back here, another bullish engulfing there to there, pushed higher, bearish engulfing lower. So I do believe we pushed lower as we've been talking about. And the question is, where do we go? We're still hovering right at the 16,500 level, which I had forecast back in May, and is the midpoint of this sort of vector candle here. We don't need to go into that. Just what I would suggest is that we prepare for a break down below here in the next month. I think I'm expecting to bottom in December, and give or take, but mid-December. So we'll see what happens. It's really hard to tell, but certainly this 14,000 level would be a likely bounce point. And so that was the high back here in June of 2019, was also the high of the month in October of 2020. Flipped to support here, became the support base in November of 2020. Then, of course, off to the races. It came back down here, and I think that'll be a likely point of support. Below that, we've got 12,500, the rising 100-month moving average, this green line right here. And if we were to see the 85% drop that we typically see in these cycles, which we've seen twice before, the 85% drop here back in the 2014, 2015. If you're new to the channel, haven't seen this before, and by the way, please like and subscribe if you like the charts and the TA that we're doing. So back in here, came right down to this 85% level, riding that 50-month moving average again in 2017, 2018, high of around 20K, came back 85% down to this level 3,000, also that 50-month moving average. So if we were to come down 85%, and this cycle would put us right down around 10,000. And as you've heard me say, if we're going to go that low, probably 97.50 to 97.80. Why? Because there's a CME gap in there. Can't see it on this chart, but we'll pull it up here shortly. Okay, the only other thing that I wanted to call attention to is the monthly MACD here starting to even out. So I think that, we are getting closer to a bottom, but certainly could see some more downside. Certainly will take some time to grind higher, and that may take us, take a few months here. First quarter of 2023, I think we'll start inching higher, but we need to kind of break into positive territory. That could even be mid-2023 before we start seeing that MACD kind of coming back up in the green and another push higher starting, which, the 2024 halving is approaching, and typically we'll see things start to go higher here ahead of that, and we can talk about that a little bit here as well. All right, so with that, let's jump over to the weekly chart. A couple of accumulation zones that I had drawn here, and just if we extend this one now, that was an accumulation zone from prior years, whereas this was the distribution zone. If you're familiar with Wyckoff distribution patterns here, so this was, as we can now surmise, where the whales and institutions were selling or distributing. And so what we want to be watching for are where the likely accumulation zones are. Previously, I had drawn these three. And so if it was going to hold here on this black line, then that would be the 300-week moving average. It did break down below, but that was the first accumulation zone that I had drawn. So if we had accumulated some there, that's fine. The play at this point would be the dollar cost average. And so we are currently right here. Question is, do we push higher and hit resistance right here at that 300-week moving average, that black line, which was support and likely will be resistance now, and then push lower down to that 14,000 level, which I pointed out. This is another likely sort of accumulation zone. And then if that breaks and falls, accumulation zone 3 would put us down again into that the $10,000 range, maybe just a little bit below. So I can't say recommend, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some buy limit orders in at these lower levels, especially that 97.50 to 97.80, call it 97.85, just to have bragging rights at the country club or with your friends if we get a quick capitulation bounce down below to those levels. And so, and then from there, I don't think it would last too long. I was going to pull up here the chart of trader emotions here, if I can find that, pull this over here. And we'll just cover that in a little bit of detail. So the cycle of investor emotions. So let me just pull that up, because what happens here is that most people are afraid right now, and that's why they're not basically buying. But the best times to be buying are right now, so essentially, or very soon. So this is the cycle of investor emotions. So we go through this optimism, excitement, the thrill, euphoria. This is the FOMO, where everyone's jumping in, afraid of missing out on the gains, when in actuality it is the point of maximum financial risk. And so we certainly saw that overlaid in here. And then as we go lower, people have anxiety, denial, fear, and desperation, and then panic, capitulation, where people start giving up and saying maybe the markets just aren't for me. Then followed by despondency, depression. This is the point of maximum financial opportunity. And so certainly in hindsight, we can see that. So the question is, where does that land? And I believe that it's going to be down in this range, that we could see just one more big capitulation drop here into this, down to that 10,000 level. Now, certainly that could be invalid. That could be wrong. And the point of dollar cost averaging is to have some invested in these accumulation zones. So maybe at 14K, might get a little bit of a bounce. If it does go higher from there, then you haven't missed out in buying into these low lows, because if you believe as we do that this will be much higher in the future, you don't want to miss out on these lower prices. So dollar cost averaging, excellent strategy to start accumulating in these accumulation zones, because again, we don't know where this is going to bounce. But certainly if you're able to get some in each of them, your average price is going to be very good, and that way you don't risk missing the move. So if you're holding out for lower lows, catching the bottom, air quotes, you may miss it entirely. So that's what you don't want to do, but certainly paying attention as to market sentiment. And so if we see another big capitulation and people start giving up on crypto entirely, into this depression, despondency cycle is where the bottom usually comes in. So, have we had our Lehman Brothers moment yet with FTX? It remains to be seen. The contagion from that hasn't really played out fully. And so these are some likely scenarios that I've laid out for you guys. In terms of the custom charts that we have here, we'll just look at the RSI first. It's a bit hard to read this. This line here had broken down, this sort of upward support line, so that's been invalidated. We can get rid of that. So we are still in this downtrend on the RSI. So I think that we probably have some more lower lows to go, and certainly retest this 40 line, or sorry, 20-30 line here on the RSI, which was a key line in the past. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. Let's take a look at the stochastics RSI here. Let me get rid of my drawings. I had drawn that previously, and up in here, sure enough, we have pulled back on this. However, probably should get somewhat of a bounce here in the coming week, I would say, kind of a relief rally. Our ERI and our TSI, our proprietary indicators here, also showing that heading lower. So there's not a bullish indication there. If I pull up that early reversal indicator, by the way, these are custom indicators. If you'd like to add these to your arsenal, you can find those at moonstream.io/success and find out more about those. So with that, we're not showing a bullish ERI in here. So it's not the time to be buying just yet. I don't believe that's the case. If we jump over to the daily here, this is Ethereum, and I'll just, since it's pulled up, we can talk about that. And I'm sorry, this is a weekly chart. Ethereum's holding up well, actually, on this line here, which, just to be certain, is the 300-week moving average, held as support back here. I think this is a good point to keep an eye on Ethereum. I don't know, it seems to be holding up stronger than Bitcoin, but as with these indications not looking terribly strong, don't have an ERI or TSI going green, I think it's going to be another week or so. So pretty quiet in the markets. So let's chop over to Bitcoin on the daily chart here. I'll just open this up. Now this is another one of our proprietary indicators, though, our radar. So this to me is bearish on the daily basis for Bitcoin. All red on the 4-hour, the 1-day, the weekly, and the monthly. So I do anticipate this this sort of flag pattern breaking down lower. And again, my targets are 12.5 after 14K. So let's keep an eye on that. There's certainly no reason to be getting into this market right now, and no signs of strength. We're below the 21 and 50-day moving averages. No need to pull up our Ichimoku well below the cloud. And so I just will point out, while it's messy, this cloud here tried to break up above the cloud here, couldn't. This was our first indication this was not going to continue higher, and certainly that has played out. So the question is, there's really no way to target that in terms of, I've already identified the price levels I think we go to, 14K and then 12.5 as are the levels to watch, and potentially put in buy limit orders if you're so inclined. And so in terms of this on a daily basis, however, I'm getting a bearish early reversal indicator. Yeah, so I do believe this rolls over, heads lower at this point. And again, if you'd like to find out more about our proprietary indicators, and with permission from Max here, that you can do that at in the link in the description at moonstream.io/success. And but certainly we're going to be updating this as we go. So I'm going to turn that off, and let's do this here. I'll go ahead and pull up the Ethereum chart, and we'll take a look at some of the broader market indices as well. All right, so let's see. The Ethereum chart here, again, not looking terribly strong on a daily. I think it'll pull back. There's might be a good opportunity to get in at sub 1,000 again on Ethereum. And let's just take a look there. Hard to say. Ethereum actually looks bullish here, getting some mixed signals. So our trend indicator just turning from red to green. The bell is usually a buy signal and usually has a follow through for 6 or 7 days. So that's interesting. I have our signal line also going green, and the TSI trend strength indicator going up. Let me just see here. There was a bullish ERI, that early reversal indicator in here, but it just doesn't seem quite strong enough. I think I would wait on this one because of the 21-day, 50-day resistance. I would let that roll over and wait for a stronger buy entry, probably down in this range. I am still holding out for let me turn this off here, the lower ranges where I'd love to be buying Ethereum in this 510 to 680 buy zone range. I have alerts set on both the top and bottom of that range. This is also the measured move of the bear flag breakdown back here from back in September. Sort of try to hold here. It's kind of sloppy bear flag here, but the measured move would still put us in that buy zone. So that's where I would be looking to accumulate some Ethereum, and be a great area to do that. So keep an eye on that. The corresponding areas and levels on the total market cap here, if we just move that over here, again, looking very bearish here. All red on my radar. 4-hour, daily, weekly, monthly. So we've got some lower prices in store here, I believe, in the crypto markets. So just be ready for that. And again, let's see, measured move on this. This was a bear flag breakdown. Also, just removed some of the lines. Would put the total market cap right around 600 billion. You can see I have this line drawn in my target range with some alerts where I think that could be a good bounce point. And so I would be holding out for those levels, because over here it was a liquidity pocket back in this range. So by knowing this ahead of time, you can save money, and would not be going into anything just now. As I mentioned, if we want to look at some of the indices here, like USDT dominance, now this is an inverse relationship to crypto. The fact that USDT is all green on the radar means this is likely to go higher, which will correspond to crypto going lower. And let's just pull up Bitcoin dominance and ETH dominance to see which one's likely to see more of the drop here. I think Bitcoin dominance has been dropping here into altcoin season levels, but that doesn't mean go out and buy altcoins. Just means it's not much favor in Bitcoin right now, whereas Ethereum is holding strong here in this green box. I'll just zoom in on that to see what that's all about. And of course, this wavy red line drew weeks ago, and it's sort of following along. It's holding this lower edge. What I'm watching very carefully is can ETH dominance hold here and push higher, or do we start to break down? And if we break down, then money would likely go into stable coins. One interesting thing that we noticed earlier today is that, and by the way, I'll just zoom out because it's important to note that Ethereum dominance was in a downtrend for many years here, changed here in the end of 2020. It's been in an uptrend, even though it's in the lower channel. But keep an eye on this. If we do start to see ETH pushing higher, I would likely see that follow through, and then in a surprising move, maybe kind of pushing higher with relation to Bitcoin. Yeah, with the merge successfully behind us, that'll be interesting to see. So we'll see about that. But what could also happen here, and this would be interesting, is if money starts flowing out of the markets, the crypto markets, could also flow out of stablecoins. And there are some proposing, as I have suggested to some people, that you putting money back into fiat right now may not be a bad idea because of the $250,000 FDIC insurance. So whereas stable coins should be solid, we have certainly seen that not to be the case, and we just can't see the future. USDT had temporarily lost its peg here, and a couple of attempts to destabilize USDT. Fortunately, it's holding strong, but you just don't know. Similarly, other pegs like Binance and Gemini have had some blips, at least Gemini had. And so while it makes sense to diversify, I would suggest, without giving financial advice, is possibly having some in fiat in a bank account that was insured, FDIC insured, and then moving other coins, if you're not going to be in cold storage, put it into stable coins, but not in all in one, as we saw with UST. You don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket, all your coins in one basket, as we may say. So with that here, quick look at the DXY here. Interesting that this is coming down, the DXY coming down as crypto is going down. So the inverse relationship has sort of lost its peg, if you want to call it that, which is not surprising. But if we wanted to take a quick look here, are we nearing a support level on UST? Kind of. So we have this support and then the support here. So, we could see a bit of a bounce on UST, which would coincide with, with the DXY, apologies, with DXY, which would coincide with a drop in crypto. Would not be surprised to see this. I'll leave the squiggly drawing here, technical term, of course, and but yeah, I would not be surprised to see another brief pullback on the DXY and then push higher with a corresponding drop in Bitcoin and crypto. So that's about it. Just skimming through all of the coins here, not a whole lot going on. Cadena having a little bit of a bounce, but it's been beaten down so much, not surprising. And if we want to take a quick look at another basket that I follow, just not a whole lot going on here, and or looking good. And so with that, It's a waiting game. Some of these are sort of holding in their ranges. So Bantam coin, in this sort of buy zone here, if you want to zoom left, not a recommendation to buy or sell, but if you are looking for opportunities and want to keep an eye on some things, here's Polygon Matic here, had sort of a cup and handle breakout that turned out to be a fake out here. So that's sort of invalidated. We'll wait and see on that. AVAX, similarly in these sort of accumulation zones potentially. But if we do see things coming lower, as I proposed on the overall total market cap, everything likely will go lower. You might want to keep an eye on some that are showing signs of strength in all of this. Here's one called Haven Coin, but again, all red on the radar, not to be time to be buying into things. This radar indicator is so strong. And not sure what happened there. Boson had I think that was a data mishap there. So yeah, that would explain that big drop on that. But anyway, so not a whole lot going on. We're in a waiting game to see when things do start to bottom, and then how and when they start to rebound. Make no mistake about it, there is a lot of money on the sidelines, and certainly if and when we get some crypto regulation to balance things out, and a lot of that money can come back into these markets, but that is a big reason why it isn't now and really can't in the near future, because of the lack of regulation and oversight and accounting auditing. So just to touch on FTX again, it was a house of cards and essentially a Ponzi because of the fact that they were supporting up their valuations based on their FTT token. By now, all of you probably know this. There's a good write-up by Blockworks on FTX situation, but you can Google that on your own. And so, no new news really happening here, and so you could look that up. FTX Blockworks, and yes, there's several good articles about this, but until it really plays out and the other shoe sort of drops or is clear, we don't know what's next. Of course, Genesis is in bankruptcy now. There's more contagion going, and then so this is the one, 2 days ago, Grayscale, I mentioned. I do believe that I believe MicroStrategy is okay. I've done research on that. You can look into that too. Blockworks has a good article on that. It's Grayscale that has the. I don't like these sites with all these ads. Sorry guys, but at any rate, they have quite a bit of debt, and the biggest reason they would not liquidate by choice is they earned a high degree of management fees last year. I think they earned 600 million, maybe 900 million in management fees, so they don't want to liquidate the company unless they have to. Now, the parent company, Digital Currency Group, which also owns Genesis. Now, DCG is a huge company. Now, here's a doomsday or worst case scenario. DCG also has big stakes in Coinbase. If Genesis were to somehow destabilize DCG and kind of combined to affect Grayscale, there could be just a massive unwinding of everything, which would be terrible. But well, I'm not going to count on that. Just want to be aware of that, and so you can do your own research here. But it's essentially in the article I was reading earlier about Grayscale. It's not a 0%. It's more than a 0% chance. I mean, it's a non-zero possibility that Grayscale goes out. It's not a high probability, but we want to be aware of these things and certainly do your own research. Stay on top of these things. Have your coins in cold storage. This isn't the best news resource here, but you can look into that. I mostly wanted to comment on that. And again, however, show me the charts. I'll tell you the news. Right now, not a lot happening. People waiting for this other shoe to drop. I wonder if we have a shoe graphic in here somewhere just to see. I had a sense that another shoe was going to drop back in here. Didn't know it would be FTX. There's a lot of white area right in here, and so this tells me this is a big area of uncertainty, and the markets do not like uncertainty. They, as most people do, prefer certainty. So big question mark here. What happens here in the next week to 2 weeks, and the coming months? So we want to keep an eye on that. But I would just kind of put on my spidey sense and my spidey hat here. Either a little push up here, but we're probably heading down in these regions. Something along these lines. So anyway, wish you had better news, but at least hopefully you are in cash and not going back into these markets just yet. And so hopefully this was helpful, and we will talk to you again next week. Again, if you like the content, hit like, hit subscribe. Love to hear your comments down below. And that's all I have for you this week. So I hope you enjoy and have a good week coming up. We'll keep you posted. Take care, everyone.